speaker. They say, you should leave the best to last. Is that what you think, Daniel?
I was actually just thinking that, but I'm sort of, I don't want to say.
You don't want to blow your
I
trumpet.
I would say leaving the hottest topic till last, which, waterproofing.
Well, that's funny that you should say that since you just actually are now have actually taken over from a fire specialist. But anyway,
Look, thank you so much for the opportunity. Actually, I do want to follow on from Rob because one of the particular issues that a lot of strata owners aren't aware of is in particular older buildings when they don't have an AFSS in place and they're not aware of it. Going into what I'm about to talk about, which is watertight and remediation, waterproofing remediation. If they don't have that AFS in place, the works they have to be really careful because if council find out they haven't got an AFS in place, they will put a stop to everything, and
yes, right.
that can take who knows how long before you can actually come and continue the project you originally started
Wow.
because of
Okay.
that fire order that gets put on the building. And that's something that's come up recently on a not one of our projects, but we know of a project that got put on hold because they got a fire order placed on the building.
Yeah.
Something to be
So,
aware of.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
great. And I think
Yeah.
it's that
So
you don't often think about that, do you, in terms of then
no.
the implications.
Yeah.
But, the whole theme of today, in terms of all the dialogue, has been very much about plan, 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 right?
Yeah.
And the whole, the focus is if you're doing everything in a kind of like methodical maintenance kind of approach, those kinds of issues, such as not being able to actually proceed with the next stage of works that you might have planned, won't occur. And as you say, that's a major nightmare because if you've got the guys on site and then they can't do the work and they have to go off, the likelihood of you
Yeah.
getting them back again is
Yeah.
pretty, hard, and then there's going to be a cost increase, right? So,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're
So
talking about waterproofing, Daniel, and
yes.
that's one of
Yeah.
our biggest defect issues within our
Well,
apartment buildings, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, it's, very sort of well known, that waterproofing and building is probably the number one defect. In particular, balconies and rooftops are one of the major issues we see in remediation.
Mm, mm,
And yeah, look, it's a lot of it comes from or a lot of major defects come from obviously minor defects that aren't
mm.
looked at. So this slide here sort of covers a few things. One is, firstly, small observations or small rust stains or leaks that get apparent often get overlooked, and then they turn into major issues. In particular, insurance. If insurance aren't aware and then they're not notified, that can be a massive problem because they exclude gradual water damage as well. So you have to be really careful about that. And then that can lead into then disputes, which can be hundreds of thousands of dollars if
Yeah.
they aren't looked at. And you would know in particular, the strata laws on maintaining common property, and the Design Build Practitioners Act on duty of care are two major pieces of legislation that can cause major havoc for an owner's corporation and then entering into the tribunal. And then we actually know of some cases where insurance has been revoked or they have been put on notice, where if the remediation or leaks aren't taken care of, their insurance will be revoked.
Yeah.
We've seen a couple of cases like that. We've also seen cases where they've shortened their renewal period because
Yes.
they want to make sure that it's monitored. Yeah, so they're the couple of hidden costs of leaks, and then obviously there's other costs like, the move or paying.
Relocation.
Yeah, relocation. Yeah, so relocation of owners and things like that. That's massive costs that aren't even direct costs to the water leak to
Yeah.
remediation. Yeah.
It always amazes me when, people who buy a penthouse, right, and then they get a water leak, right,
Yeah.
and then the people who kind of like are on the committee will say, well, they're rich enough to buy a penthouse.
Yeah.
Surely they can fix the water leak. And I'm like, they're even more compromised by the fact that they've paid that much money and now they've got a water leak, and
That's
it's
right.
all to do with common property. But this
Correct.
is a bit of a blur point because even people who, live in an apartment complex don't always understand about common property,
Correct.
and obviously if you're redoing your balcony with waterproofing, the OC is responsible for removing the tiles, removing the screed, making it all nice and dandy, putting back on the waterproofing, but then the tiles are the owner's responsibility because, of course, common property is everything that's kind of like below the surface covering, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's right. That's right. And then you get other issues like also, well, if it's leaking from the balcony above onto a unit below, the unit below all often says, well, it's not my balcony that's leaking. Like, why do I have to worry about, it's the same thing, same
Yeah,
problem.
yeah,
Yeah, so we often get that, and unfortunately, yes, it's the owners' corporation, and yeah, so the common, I mean, in a class two building in strata, the most common are yeah, flat roofs and balconies. Planter boxes look good,
oh my goodness,
but
they're my
they
nightmare.
are not a nightmare. Often, which I'll cover it also is that often with planter boxes, it's the wrong type of membrane has been
Yes,
used in there. Look, yeah, and then the wrong type of plants too. That can be a problem if
yeah,
there are
with
deciduous
big
roots in there and
roots.
things like that. Yep, yep, yep. Facade, yeah, look, leaking windows, facade flashing, window flashings, things like that are often an issue. Box gutters on metal roofing is a big problem. We
Mm.
find a lot of stratas have flat roofs that are metal. The lower the pitch, while they're still compliant, often leak because of the it's just the
A
details.
deluge, right?
Yeah,
And I've
yeah,
got a building which has only got a fall of 1% on the roof. Like, how is
yeah,
that meant to actually, in any way, shape, or form, move
yeah.
water down? And, balconies without drainage points and those kinds of things. So,
That's
if
right.
your balcony is water pooling on your balcony, have a
Yeah.
look at where it's pooling because if the grout is missing from your tiles, that's the first indication that you've got a
100%.
waterproofing issue, right?
100%. And with metal roofing, that's why we're starting to see interest on overlaying the metal roofs now with the membrane.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
starting to see issues, a lot of interest in that system now.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so why waterproofing fails? So um, uh, often, a lot of people think, the membrane's failing. It's not. It's not the membrane itself, the product. It's often the design, detailing, the wrong systems being chosen. Often in new builds, we had the building boom back in the day. That was inadequate supervision. It was the buildings and the membranes are being installed so fast, and they're not being like the curing time, the time that materials need to become cured or on a building. It's not enough. They're not leaving it enough to time to do that. And then yeah, then being proactive on your maintenance. So a lot of membranes, especially exposed waterproofing membranes, they're not maintained because people don't know they need to be, and that's a big problem. Often in supplier warranties, you'll see in the fine print that it must have a maintenance plan. And a lot of people get the warranties and they just file them and they don't plan for anything. So that's a big one. And yeah, so like I said, yeah, most of the failures come from design or workmanship, not actually the materials themselves. Yeah.
You can get some dodgy products out there, but there's
Oh,
no
look, I,
there's
I
no
would
denying
say,
that, Daniel.
yeah, no, that you're right, but I would say that from a building point of view, if that's why I mean, a lot of the time now they're cracking down on the certification of materials.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So, yes, you can get dodgy materials, but I would say that would be on a rare, I would say on a rare case, I would say that that was not certified. Yeah. So now that's becoming more apparent that materials are being certified correctly.
And here's some lovely
Yeah.
examples of ephrus runoff and
Yeah.
stalactites growing, and
Yes.
you know,
Very, very common. A lot of strata units will know these pictures, unfortunately. Um, a lot of the defects you'll see on the one on the top left, is actually a membrane that's a torch-on membrane, that is showing signs of pooling of water
yeah,
on the membrane. While the membrane could actually take it, it's still a defect that you've got pooling on the roof. So it should obviously go to falls, right?
yeah,
Another common thing is cracking that occurs above the membrane finish, which is that crack on the wall.
yeah,
It's just allowing water straight in, so it'll
yeah,
load under the membrane. Yep. The other one's drainage points too. So a lot of the membranes that we install that are often stored on a roof need a particular drain type that screws on and then pushes against the membrane. So that's like a clamping drain. So it should prevent the membrane from turning up or coming up away from, yeah, from the termination. What else is there? Termination of or the upturn termination of membranes, which is that joint sealant you can see on the far right.
yeah,
The joint sealant used is not compatible. So that often roofers or handymen will just seal it like with a Seeker flex it or something, or put a sealant. That sealant that's being used there is not correct sealant.
no,
So it'll actually degrade over time, and
yeah.
it'll go yellow. Then membrane water's going to get behind the
It's a
membrane.
superficial fix.
Correct, superficial, correct. The other most common is also the joints in the membrane. That's going to be an obvious failure point is the joints. So going back to maintenance, it's always checking those joints. You might find that the joint is fine when the membrane's installed, but over time it may come away depending on the amount of movement on the roof. That's why it's often a good idea to have a preventative maintenance plan so
Yeah,
that those joints are being checked as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
A common one in car parks is the bottom left one, which is what basically effervescence that turns into those stalactites. That will eventually turn into concrete cancer, where the
correct.
concrete comes away from the reinforcement bar. Very damaging to cars too. That salt will damage paint
Yes.
as well.
Do not
And
put trays up. I've seen people
yeah,
put trays up to capture
yeah,
it. That
yeah,
is not going
yes.
to resolve your issue.
No,
This
it
is
will
one of
not.
those things that needs to
Yeah.
be fixed straight away.
That's it. So tray, I see that it's very common to put trays. The problem with that is then you're covering it up. You will not see what is happening.
Yeah,
Then you have to maintain. You've got to keep pulling those trays down to have a look.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to do it. Otherwise, you don't know what's going to happen from then onwards with regards to the amount of damage that's being caused in the concrete.
correct.
Yeah. The other two, so the joints are very common. So any upturn and so any corner where there will be movement is a very common cause of water leaks, where either the wrong sealant is being used, a bond breaker, or none at all has been used. Very common fault in waterproofing, where water will ingress into the unit, that corner. What you're seeing there too, that seal comb product, that's a way of checking the membrane thickness that's being installed. So any good waterproofer that's installing a liquid membrane should be using one of that tool to check their membrane thickness on an installation. And the last one is very common on balconies where there's water ingress often into the tile bed, which is drawing salts out of the tile bed on top of the tiles. The common fix for that would be to install the membrane above the screed, which is more common now, which is part of the standard. And then installing a salt retardant in the actual tile bed to reduce the amount of salting in that. Yeah.
Interesting.
All right, so four main areas of watertight buildings. Obviously, the design. So the design build act has played a big part in that. So even in remediation work, so getting the design right and moving away from a design and construct model is the view of the legislation. So it forces the building practitioner, which is us, and the design practitioner to make sure we get the design, 80, 90% there, because obviously with remedial you can't see everything. But it's basically trying to get it all right before we start ripping tiles up or ripping the old membrane. So actually getting all the design up front, which is really a good way to go, because we're always thinking about what the membrane compatibility is, how do we terminate the membrane correctly, all those decisions that would or before the legislation were made during construction, which cause a lot of issues.
Well, that's ad hoc, right?
Yeah, it's all ad hoc on the fly. The other thing is installation. So using accredited people. I hear from owners, they've engaged, which is common, the cheapest guy or whatever, then only to find out they weren't a building practitioner. So they've gone and engaged someone that wasn't even a building practitioner. They've gone to ask them for the warranties and the design declaration. Building the declaration, couldn't provide it.
No.
So a big, massive issue. So making sure that, it doesn't take much to do a quick check online of their licenses through the New South Wales portal and check all that. And then maintenance is another one, very common issue. Membranes not maintained, that's been exposed. Small issue occurred. No one knew about it. Could have been a screw through the membrane or something that was very minor. And hadn't been looked at, and that turns into a major problem. So maintenance is a big one. And then the last one is in particular with a new build or any installation, obtaining your warranty. So supplier should have a warranty on their product, as well as the installer should have their warranty. There's at least a statutory warranty. In labour work, the installation work.
Yeah, because a product, it's like a supplier warranty, can often be between 10 to 15 years, but you've got to make sure that you have done nothing to actually compromise, right? So we had a situation in our apartment complex where they wanted to actually install shade sails, and I was fine with that, but we made a procedure that if they wanted to actually do that they had to then follow the guidelines and then get the water manufacturer back out to verify that the water membrane hadn't been compromised, right? And so that as a building, we didn't actually have just one, kind of like cowboy, go out and do what they wanted to do, and then suddenly our warranty was compromised. So they thought I was a bit anal, but I think you have to be with waterproofing, right?
I think you're spot on. I think with waterproofing you need to be anal, because the two I've seen is anchor points. So they went and did their roofing membrane, and then it later installed anchor points from a separate company.
Yeah.
And didn't even realise that they've drilled through the membrane. Yeah, so bang, compromise. The warranty's gone.
And solar panels, I always say to my owners, if you're going to do the solar panels, you might as well then do the waterproofing at the same time.
Correct. Yeah, they're the two things I've seen that cause a problem with the warranty.
Yeah. All right. So.
Here we go. Yeah. So solar. So one of the things we've just on that point with solar was looking at not only solar, but also if you're going to do any sort of remediation, in particular on the roof, you can look at membranes and solutions to upgrade what you have. So you're going to spend the money already.
Correct.
Why not look at so we've had owners that had common property on a rooftop terrace where they were smart about it and chose a good membrane, and then they were able to put, the fake turf. They put
Yes.
down, then they put down the pedestals with the timber decking,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
upgraded it, and
Yes.
it's $1 million. Like
Yeah.
it's a huge difference. So I think thinking ahead and then asking about what is the ways we can benefit from what we do, like what are the additional options?
What's the
Because you've also
bonuses?
got membranes that can have accessories that where you don't need to drill through the membrane to install your solar panels. You can just weld on, brackets and stuff like that. So I think that's
Perfect.
something that owners need to think about. The new NCC that's coming definitely has a greater emphasis on the performance solution path, but also energy and more sustainable design in building. So that's another thing to think about as well. And then the use of digital inspection, using technology for the inspection, maintenance, things like that. So we're often installing technologies that make testing a lot easier. So installing an underlay that's conductive, so you can test the membrane, make sure it's leak proof. And things like that are coming more so, or we're seeing more of that design in place.
Well, that's
Yeah,
good. And you're right. If you're going to do that, you might as well think about the bigger picture. Yeah.
that's it. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, what does good look like? What does good maintenance look like? So there's look at a contractor that has a very in-depth maintenance checklist, and that can also triage your issues on a roof. So what could turn into a major defect. What's a minor defect that can be repaired on site straight away? And like I mentioned before, Section 106 duty to maintain. Often owners are aware of, say, things like common property walkways or gardens, and things like that, or cleaning and things like that. They don't think about the membrane on the roof that's exposed, which is the one of the main entry points of water.
Yeah.
And so the photo you're seeing on the top right is essentially cleaning the membranes to restore their solar reflective index, which reduces the amount of heat that enters into the slab as well.
Interesting. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, quick case study. This was a site in Wollongong in Woonona, actually. So defective membrane, falls were incorrect. As you can see by the photos, the black areas on the roof was where there was water ponding on the top photos there. They had water ingress into the penthouse, also into the lift well, which is that brick structure you're seeing. That's a lift well.
Yeah.
So the membrane had to be taken up and into the cavity, so that's those photos, the bottom, the set from the second row from the bottom. So the membrane was then taken into the cavity, and then we installed new screed on the roof to fall, and then a new PVC membrane was installed. And this is the site, I believe, where they then used the fake turf, and then it put the pedestal with the
Decking. Yeah.
decking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they've
So
been 3 years leak
3
free.
years leak free so far. Yep, 3 years leak free. And look, I can't quote exactly on the amount, but they got a better insurance premium
Yeah.
as well, because the insurance company obviously could see that there was a maintenance plan, etc. on the roof.
Insurance companies love proactive, right?
100%.
And they've
Yeah,
become even stricter. Like I have seen such a change in their attitudes in the last couple of years.
yeah,
And the last thing you want to see on your budget line items is your insurance going from 10,000 to 50,000, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
while it might cost you to do the work up front, it's like an ROI over a period of years. And plus, you know, not having water damage in your building is really a fantastic result.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
All right. So what does the future hold?
Oh, that was the slide. Sorry, I must have went. That was actually the slide I had. So,
Oh, there we go.
yeah.
Yes, we've done that one.
It must have been a duplicate. Sorry.
That's
So
okay.
key takeaways. Key takeaways. So obviously know your assets. So what I mean by that is, there's often a log of HVAC and other mechanical items on the strata block. But not often do they keep enough of a record of trades going on the roof, the type of membrane installed, warranty periods, things like that that are really important about waterproofing and
Yeah.
water ingress into, especially when it's covered, like your balcony membranes, things like that. What is the expected lifespan, and then the warranty that exists on the membrane. We've been talking about proactive, maintaining proactive. You can't stress that enough. And then I think, like you mentioned, it's a theme, partner with accredited specialists. So, pick companies that are accredited to use the particular membranes being recommended as well, like being certified. Often owners aren't aware that there are accreditations that need to be obtained by people like us to install certain membranes as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Licensing is another one, same thing. And then, action the small signs of defects. So get on to those small, there's a small leak here, or could that be a problem? How much time do we expect there could be a major defect? Things like that. Just get on top of the smaller stuff.
The warning signs are always there, right?
Yeah.
So take heed, especially when it comes to obviously waterproofing. Now,
Yep.
I'm just having a look to see if we've got any questions at all. If there is water ingress in 5 sunrooms and the committee continues to ignore this, what are the legal ramifications? Well, report them to fair trading.
Yeah. So the failure, it's important because the failure to remedy anything, especially on common property, is a responsibility of the owner's corporation.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really important that occurs immediately.
And so you can either engage us to write to the committee, or you can engage a lawyer like Bannerman's. Usually when they receive that kind of correspondence, or, please, let us know why you're not doing this, that usually makes them take action. And of course, you can sue the individual office bearers if they're actually being negligible, and you can demonstrate that, because if it's been going on over a series of years, it just may be a matter of needing to educate people, and even getting someone like Daniel to come out and present to your OC, do a barbecue or a lunch and learn, and get someone like Daniel to come out and have a chat, because sometimes all it takes is just for a bit of imparting of knowledge and information, and people are much more the wiser, aren't they?
100%. And don't ignore, one thing I didn't mention was mold as well is a big one.
Yeah.
Too many owners corporations ignore mold, and the problem is what you can see is not the full picture of what the mold on the the effect of the mold. So you may see a small amount of mold, but the pores are much larger than that. The area that it's cut. Yeah,
It's the tip of the iceberg, quite
That's
literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Daniel. You were the last. Oh, sorry, Odette.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to say that the water ingress, we've got an older style building in Bondi, and the sunrooms were converted they used to be balconies, they were converted to sunrooms, so they're single brick, but many of them, including my own, has water ingress. So when it rains on the inside, and this has been reported, and it's been happening to my sunroom for about 15 years. Now it's happening to 4 others, and it's been raised I am on the committee, one of 5, and I'm continually outvoted on progressing further to get this fixed. So my next steps actually were to take the committee, including myself, because I'm on the committee, to NCAT, if that was the next logical step.
I think that we've had this conversation, Odette.
Yeah.
We have. And I think I told you to go hard on them, didn't I?
Yep.
So,
No, that's where we're going to go.
So
Yeah.
I think there's nothing. Just so you know that if you take yourself to NCAT, you'll be partly liable, right? So it may require maybe to have someone like Daniel come in and have a conversation with you at your next committee meeting.
Yeah.
I think sometimes. If you're a female, first of all, and I hate to say that, but that can actually go against you. People don't think you know what you're talking about. And B, they just think you're a whinging, owner. But if you have someone like Daniel come in and actually do an inspection and then say, this ain't good, from an expert, sometimes they actually do take heed.
Okay. Daniel, I'll reach out. I'll be in touch.
Yeah, all good.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Great.
all good.
Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you, Daniel, for being the last on the speakers circuit today. But certainly it was a worthwhile session. You kept me awake. I've been going for nearly 6.5 hours, and yet I'm still smiling because this is my passion. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.